remember things. It's more than just void, darkness, unconsciousness. The mind does work. There are images, patterns, things to recollect. It's not just the long, deep sleep that comes when the fear has left. The cold is felt, the slipping away of feeling is noted, succumb to. The mind functions. Time is distorted, jumbled, telescoped, accordion, but there is a sense of sound. And I remember things. I remember the way it began. It was in the beginning.
Daddy, I think he's lost his mind. He's never been like this before. Tonight he was almost crazy.
What did you say?
Oh, crazy things that he's some kind of a spaceman and that they're taking over the Earth and that we're all going to die.
Better get him some help.
Goes 30 times faster than the speed of light.
Mentally disturbed.
When the space agency put me on my project, don't listen to me. They told me to keep in mind the scientific process. And what do we know about our latest advance?
Better get him some help.
Don't listen to him. He's one of us. He's with the advanced unit.
What kind of advanced unit, son?
Don't fight them, son. It'll only make it more difficult for all of us.
You're mentally disturbed.
Where there is an ill, there is a way. So, be part of the experiment right here on Experimentally Ill Radio. Go to experimentallyill.com. We're calling this episode 103, second half of Life on the Road, recording live in, we left Hollywood, California, on the road. It's me, Mike O'Toole, here, special guest in person, Lawrence Hollie, and November 26, 2017. Go to experimentallyill.com. Check out all the shows. Talking to artists, entertainers, eccentrics in my weird world. Typically in New England now, on location, on the road, California. Check out the previous episode for our what we talked about there. Talking about Justice League, talking about the journey to wanting to be an artist, an entertainer, wanting to work in the industry, all that stuff. And it was cool. Check it out, facebook.com/experimentallyill, twitter.com/expill. I'm on Instagram, Michael P. O'Toole, and we're on the road. Lawrence, where did we just come from? We told you we were going to go there in the last episode. But.
Yeah, hey, everybody. In case you're wondering who the second voice is, you remember me as the, if you're following this chronologically, I was in the last episode, originally Mike's co-host and co-producer on the Experimentally Ill podcast. We're with irons in the fire of my own. Now, where were we? I'll tell you where we're going to be, is we're going to be out of gas soon, so I got to pull over and get some gas. But no, where we were just today, we were... Mike and I started off the day going to the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, followed by a jaunt to the facade of the Whiskey A Go-Go and the Roxy. We did not go in either venue, but we ruminated about what followed from that. Was a rumination of the feeling, the situation of being someplace versus reading about it, and we were kind of contemplating the fact that we were on streets that were once walked by Lemmy Kilmister of Moorhead and guys like Henry Rollins, and thinking that, wow, 30, 40 years ago, this area was a whole hotbed of like West Coast punk rock, muck rock activity, and it's kind of like at least I kind of wonder what's left. My whole thing is what's left behind. In any scene that persists for a while, I always wonder, like, what tangential magic is left over. And that's what Mike and I were kind of thinking about when we were walking up and down Sunset Boulevard in front of these old haunts. The last place we went to was Button Mash over in Echo Park, which is a barcade that has a bunch of retro arcade games. Nice little way to cap off the evening. And now we begin the long death march from Los Angeles.
You got the chips, though. Explain about the chips.
I got cheese popcorn today, but the death march from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara. Yeah, that's me. I think it was great. It was fun. It's kind of nice. Mike is really more up and into the punk. I dig punk. I dig a lot of things. I dig punk rock, but Mike has more of a foot in the history of it all, and it was cool to kind of see things through his eyes and bring us both to a place that was kind of cool. And he mentioned it, and I went there, and yeah, it was pretty cool. I thought it was far out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's Lemmy was the lead singer of the band Motorhead, which is, I guess people consider them a metal band, but kind of bridged into punk rock as well, at least Lemmy in the punk community, because a lot of famous punkers liked him and played with him, like Rollins, and he has photos with Joan Jett and all this, and he had kind of that look, the bullet belt and the cowboy hat and stuff, and hung with the Ramones, was a fan of the Ramones himself. And then we took a little video there too, and I said this, but he seemed like a soft-spoken guy off stage, but then known for that really guttural and aggressive vocal style, fast, crunchy guitars and fast drums and everything. To him, they just played straight up rock and roll, because that was his background, coming from England and coming to Los Angeles decades ago, I think. And he passed away last year, and Lemmy's whole thing, he was a living legend, and now he's just a legend because he is a legend. The legend precedes him. And the whole thing was that Lemmy didn't die, that he seemed indestructible. The legend was he drank a bottle of Jack Daniels, I guess, every day since he was 30, and I think did he live to be 60-something years old or 70 years old? I don't know. And he died playing his favorite video game. He played arcade games, I think, too, which we just came from playing.
A good retroactive tribute to Lemmy by playing arcade games.
Yeah. So now I didn't know they have a. So we went to the Rainbow Bar and Grill, which is sort of this, not too big of like a rock bar kind of, and you can get food and drink and everything. And he hung there, as I always heard that. I mean, I've heard of other like celebrities there, like Ron Jeremy, the porn star and stuff. But Lemmy was there a lot, and kind of probably just a local character, local eccentric dude there. And then I guess now they put up like a big statue in the place, which we took pictures with and we took video of, and they call it the Lemmy Lounge or Lemmy's Lounge, and they have like signage and big like glossy photos of Motorhead, Lemmy with his bandmates there, and yeah, it was really cool to see, and it was surreal, and you feel that there was a documentary about Lemmy, Live Fast, Die Old, that they did, and you feel that energy. There was certainly some controversial aspects to Lemmy in the past, but by all accounts, a really nice guy, and you feel this sort of positive, energy and positive vibe off of that statue. And of course, many people coming in, clad in leather jackets, like Lemmy, who are fans and stuff, and you feel that positive energy, like people like us and me especially, who are like excited to be there and appreciate it. And yeah, it was surreal to be there. I didn't think of it last time when we were here. I never thought I would go there, and then I just, you asked, where else would I like to go, and it was cool to think of it and be able to get to go there. So
keep the fire going, Mike.
Uh-huh.
I gotta get out. Yeah. This is me live getting gas.
Yeah.
Real exciting, folks. Mike is gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
While I get gas at a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it, Mike.
Oh.
Keep talking about the Rainbow Bar and Grill.
Can you get me a water? I'll pay you back. Yeah, the Rainbow Bar and Grill was cool. We also went to the Whiskey A Go-Go, which we just took some pictures outside. because, of course, it was starting to get dark and there was a show going on, fittingly enough. So there were big lines and everything. But the Whiskey A Go-Go I'd always heard of. It's a historical landmark. The Doors played there. Of course, people know the Doors, Jim Morrison. You know, and also I think Black Flag, the band that Henry Rollins was in, which we mentioned. So that was really cool to be there. We drove by the Viper Room, which is a club that Johnny Depp owns, and that was great. And like Lawrence was talking about, the legend kind of precedes these places. You always think about them, and then you go there, and it's unbelievable. It's just, on one hand, it's just a place like any other, and on the other hand, you have all that residual, that mana, that spirit, that reputation precedes the place. I think you know, coming here, kind of, you know, I had been there here before. We mentioned on the last podcast the road trip 3 years ago, driving in with Lawrence and myself and another friend of ours as filmmakers, you know, as artists and kind of wannabe entertainers coming in. You have an extra appreciation for the place. I'd been there, but I didn't get a chance to see it. And this time we got to go into the Chinese theater in Hollywood and all that. And that's more of a typical touristy place. This was more personal, man. People were cool. It reminded me of, you know, there are a lot of cool clubs in Boston where we're from, but a lot of them closed, TT the Bear's place and all that. And this is like one of those ones people always talk about, and you're there. And there's a ton of photographs up on the walls, autographs. Lots of famous folks, David Lee Roth. We saw our buddy that we like, Steve-O from the show Jackass. He had a picture. And, you know, just, again, surreal, another bucket list thing. Gotta thank Lawrence for helping me out with the ride and everything, and cool to share it with a friend and be back here for a little bit. I think that was great. And Lemmy, as you know, the guy that sings, well, of course people know the Ace of Spades video is pretty famous, but how can you forget Rock Out? I know Lawrence was a fan of that. We played it on our radio show when we did this podcast as like a morning radio show. Rock out.
Rock out. He says it like a question almost. Like,
what is it? What are the lyrics like? You know, you are the future. Yeah, that's right. You can imagine him saying that as so many go to pose to that statue.
The thing about that statue that I got was a feeling like when nobody was watching, Lemmy isn't actually dead. Like, he just kind of faked his death and walked in and said, "Okay, I'm done," and then just kind of morphed into the statue, and now he stands there, you know.
I wonder. I wonder that I really got like from like seeing footage and interviews and the documentary and stuff. I wonder. You know, you would hear it enough, right? I'm sure people would get like photos of him and stuff, but I wonder if he would be like into the statue, okay with the statue, or would he seems like a humble guy about it.
I'm sure he'd be fine with it. I think he would know it was done sincerely. There's probably even a plan. Maybe it was in his will. Yeah.
Maybe like the family or something, right? We heard a lot of people with, like English accents or like.
There were a lot of people with British accents there, or English, or whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people just hanging out, and it was a very, very chill vibe.
It was that Asian guy.
Right. I would imagine that the fact that it wasn't crowded owes to the fact that it was, it's been, I think, over a year since they put the statue there. So I imagine the hubbub has died.
Well, it's like a Sunday.
Yeah, there's that. Hey, Mike, you said you had to eat. Is a McDonald's chicken sandwich okay? Like, does that qualify?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't have any, like, sauce on it or anything. Right. A sandwich. Chicken sandwich, though.
Well, there's Burger King also. I know they can kind of make a little bit more of a... This is road food.
No tomato.
Road food! I mean, I'm not an advocate of eating McDonald's or any of this bullshit, but it's like, sometimes...
Yeah. Yeah, I skirted my diet on this trip. I had French toast twice, carbo loading.
Right. Yeah, Mike came out with a French toast, and he was ready to go today.
Pancakes and choffee.
That
was regular toast.
Yeah, it just came out like a piece of toast in his mouth, like a T-Rex holding a lamb. And I'm like, wow, you're really fucking nailing the toast. Like, I didn't know you were...
That crowd at the Rainbow Bar and Grill, like the waitress, it was like the penultimate of those alternative girls that we would see at the... What was it? Half Moon, Blue Moon... What was that diner in Boston? I can't remember. Like,
You know what she had is an Elizabeth Banks face. She had redhead girl face.
Yeah.
Kind of that cat eyes.
Yeah.
The Mary Jane Parker face.
It's like that butt has a girl on it.
Yeah, no, very nice. I don't know what, but it was nice. Very curvy.
Very nice.
Big boobs. Didn't like the earrings, but what can you do?
A lot of scrutiny. They have to have the right clothes.
They gotta have the right. I'm not a big fan of over bejeweled women, but what can you do? Girls like jewels and...
Overdoing it.
Yeah, it's a sad day and a sad state of affairs, but what the fuck can you do? Mike...
What the fuck can you do with the computers and computers?
Yeah, we're gonna have to kind of we gotta like make sure we kind of, because I'm getting low on funds, and tomorrow I get my check. We just gotta make sure we get order set.
Dollar menu.
Dollar menu. Yeah. Hey, McDonald's. What McDonald's has done a lot of groundwork to try to church up their image in the past decade or so, but
compete with Starbucks, kind of.
Competing with Starbucks. I wasn't cutting you off, Mike. I was just coughing. There's no two ways about it. They still serve shit. Hold on a second here. Because I'm skinny as fuck. I can get number one. A Diet Coke, please, with extra. Diet Coke with extra ice. And can we have a separate order? Yeah, a separate order with like a separate payment.
This one is 787. The next one?
All right, the next one. What do you want? Hold on, sir.
How about
It's a grilled chicken sandwich.
Oh yeah, okay. Just plain though, no tomato, no sauce.
Just a plain chicken sandwich with no tomato and no sauce.
My chicken plain?
Yeah. Can't have the sauce. Cannot have the tomato.
Okay. My chicken plain.
You got it, sir.
And what else?
Is that it?
Just water.
I got a water.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. It's 196.
Okay. Thanks.
$196.
$196 or $196? We do not know.
Do you have anything low fat?
Yeah,
Does this remind you of?
Wow, I'm with another O'Toole in the far-flung future, going through a drive-through. How weird. Yeah, the audience. We're losing the audience at this point.
This is the freewheeling one. The second one, if you've stayed on.
This is the first. The 797. You got your...
Yeah.
Okay. What we're doing, folks...
I will be coming back looking for that. What did you owe me at the Rainbow? I have the receipt.
I'm sorry. My bad. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Thank you. And then the 196, a lot of money. Thank you, sir. I will be coming back looking for that.
My card's on fire.
Yeah, so this is real riveting, folks. I'm sorry. What we're doing right now, people, is going through a McDonald's drive-thru. Thank you.
It's Life on the Road. We're recording.
We're out here. We're roughing it. We're in my van Terrig, and we're getting food. It's getting cold. And I have a camera gig back in Los Angeles tomorrow, so I'm really, I'm full tilt here.
I dropped my...
Did you drop the card? Make sure, Mike, that this time you get everything with you when you leave. Not that I'm rushing it.
You want any ketchup?
Yes, please. Thank you. Very much. Huh? Yeah. The others are chickens. You got it, yeah. I sound like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia guys. Yeah. That's my nailing down of their performance.
Danny DeVito's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. Nah, it was nice, nice when the help understands understands English. I almost would say that the people in Boston speak worse English and have a worse time interpreting orders. Because how many times have I ordered a sandwich over there without cheese? And I've asked 3 times. I've had to say like a guy with a nervous disorder, no cheese, no cheese, no cheese. And what do I get?
Like,
what do I get? I get cheese in my fucking sandwich.
it's a good protein, but a bad fat.
It's a good protein, but a bad fat. I didn't mean it intentionally. No, now we're just goofing off. This is a show, folks.
Yeah.
So keeping it going, going to these punk rock venues was kind of nice. It was, it was a good dose of history, and it kind of makes you think about, if you're the contemplative type like I am, it gets you thinking about,
Also, we saw a lot of statues, statues of the dead celebrities going to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery before that.
But going on my topic, it gets you, tying into the statues is, think about, memory and memories and scenes that are long gone, like places that were at one time hopping, like the place to be, and then at some point, when is the terminus period? Is it one big blast and it's gone, or is it over time, like people just start filtering out, like, hey, Joe the cook, the short order cook who used to split his dick apart and light a match in it, like he died. I don't know, like weird fuckheads.
Because of like the archives and the history and the fan, I think there'll always be Motorhead fans, things like that. It's like the legend precedes it,
Right,
like,
right. But like when does any scene that's big, any scene, not just Motorhead, but any scene in life, what's the point where
the turnover rate of...
Yeah, have you ever been in a scene or a place you've gone to for years, and like it's the regular place, and you think it's never going to go away, and then all of a sudden, Bob is gone, and Jane doesn't come around anymore, and so now you get the idea.
Well, it's like a BATV, the turnover for us where we used to do video and TV projects and stuff, and there's been like within 5 years there was a whole staff turnover.
That's true. That's
when talk about the rock scene, they did Golden Sounds there.
Yeah, and now like it's the old "if these walls could talk" deal. Like only the walls now are accountable or are witness to all the shit that went down in any of these places. There might be a few folks who have like scattered memories and weird little anecdotes, and you just wonder, when's the next thing gonna come along, or what fills it now? You know what I mean?
The benefit to like here though is that it's on a bigger stage. It's somehow logged into history. I don't know if like when Black Flag was playing for those few years and they were starving in the van and stuff, if people knew this was going to be like a historical time for that, hardcore punk and SoCal punk and stuff.
Usually you don't. When you're toiling away, think of a job, if you're a listener, think of a job you were toiling at or some project you might have been involved with, or even just people you hung out with. And when you're hanging out with these dudes, it seems like it's never going to end, and like everybody's firing on all cylinders, and you're going out at night, or you're, if you're in a band, you're practicing to all hours, or if you're making movies, writing scripts, whatever your thing is, and then just, then the project comes out, and it either gains legs or it doesn't, or if you're with a group of people, maybe you guys have that one big night, and then, somebody gets married. You know what I mean? So yeah, you usually don't know you're making legend until it's legend, until it's actually legend. Or you're in the midst of it and you're like, hey, I think we got something here. So it's just interesting being among that and in that environment, even in the most distant possible sense. It's interesting.
And think of the, whatever people think of like signs and symbols and things like a statue, but like I was saying earlier, that if you're a fan of somebody like Lemmy, you have sort of that residual feeling of, I never got to see them live. That was like a regret. Like, you could tell kind of Lemmy was like slowing down. There last year there was reports of him like losing his voice during the shows and stuff, and only doing a few minutes and stuff. And but even just seeing the videos and listening to the songs and stuff, I discovered them in high school, and you have that residual feeling and that nostalgia. Nostalgia means that like ache of the heart, ache, for the past, and while you can't get it back, I think it's cool that there's a statue and that was making people happy in some way. The guy, this Asian guy who was in a leather jacket and this big hat, stovepipe hat or something, was he put he looked really happy, was taking pictures, and he put a cigarette in the statue's. Somehow he got a cigarette to fit in the statue's mouth of Lemmy.
Yeah.
Hard living even as a statue.
And all types love him. That was an Asian guy. Looked like he was Japanese.
Those two guys who look kind of just like average dudes that you took the pictures of, right?
Just people of all types, stripes. I don't know. Lemmy didn't seem like the kind of guy who would discriminate, but, who knows? But I don't think he was.
I know he claimed to just collect it because he liked one of those people who just liked the iconography, but I know he collected a lot of Nazi memorabilia
There's a lot of
to
people
paint a
who do
fair
that.
picture. Yeah.
Johnny Ramone of the Ramones did that, but he actually kind of it's come out in later years that he was actually something of a of a Hitler fan. A real right-wing guy. Probably would be right at home in today's climate, unfortunately, but whatever, man. These guys are gone, and what's left behind.
Well, and you can appreciate, it brings up the thing of, it's kind of going a little bit off topic, but in today's climate with these various sort of people in the show business industry and stuff, it's like different allegations come out against them, different scandals. It's like, where do you draw the line? Can you still appreciate someone's art without necessarily loving the artist?
Really good.
You can still love the Ramones for the music.
Well, yeah, because then you ask yourself, if somebody is so politically charged like that, if somebody does have like bizarre view, or just extreme views, does it come out in the art?
I mean, I don't consider the Ramones songs especially political.
No, that's just the thing. I think that when they got together, they realized they're making music. We're not here in a soapbox. Joey would occasionally make the song that had a message, but that was mostly about his personal condition.
That's right. Like, didn't Johnny steal his girlfriend away and they got married? And there's that song, "The KKK Took My Baby Away," which is supposed to be about that situation. Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe Johnny was like the KKK, like literally, like he supported that stuff. I don't know. Allegedly.
When Joey gave a story that Johnny would tease him constantly, like that when Johnny would walk up, Johnny would tease about Joey. Joey was Jewish, and sometimes when he'd walk to the van, Johnny would be like, "Oh, here comes the rabbi," and that would just rankle the fuck out of Joey. And, little things like that, and just like you give the racist comment here and there. But not giving a pass, but it's just like, okay, dude, it's water, it's been and gone, and how many people out there, how many skeletons do people hide in their closets that we don't know of? You know what I mean? Like, we don't really know the full thoughts and feelings of, and nobody's a fucking saint, and nobody's perfect, and we've all maybe thought a hateful or nasty thing at one point or another,
Well, it's also, and then like doing stuff in the media, it's like, do you have, like, I mean, one-off comment or something like recorded from like, years ago, I don't think that should like define a person, like a lot of sexual allegations and stuff. I mean, with Trump there, that tape that came out, from like 10 years ago, whatever. I mean, that was pretty bad, but I think the guy who was the Entertainment Tonight host, the guy Billy Bush, like he lost his job from like the Today Show or whatever, like 10 years later, just because he was kind of like laughing in the recording or whatever, because he didn't say like, hey, knock it off or whatever. Like he was just there,
There is a thing, I mean, Trump is a divisive character, but there is one thing that is that I kind of understand is one of the things he said at the outlet of his campaign was like, we've been too politically correct. And, okay, for him, that's more of a license to be an asshole, but on the flip side of that, the toxic results of being too politically correct is almost as bad as rampant racism. Because if you're always putting the clamp down on everything people say and do, and you're making people walk on eggshells, you're creating an environment that's just like a powder keg. That
you can't express yourself because anything could be offensive to the person who's being offended because they decide what's offensive.
All bets are off at that point. Like anything can be. We've seen overly liberal people. We know those people, and they're like Nazis in their own right for things that are liberal.
Even good-intentioned things, however good, some people say like the end justifies the means or whatever, but it's like good results, okay, but if you're just as militant about doing things that are supposed to be good, but it's like you have to do it this exact certain way as another person, it's like you're being just as militant as somebody who is doing something negative. So
you're pulling the same shit, and then at the end of the day, nobody's happy, and that person, you end up coming across like a bit of a hypocrite. So, just the best rule is to just try to treat other people like you want to be treated. Keep your hands to yourself, and go about your business. We're all going to make mistakes. It's how we recover from those mistakes. Do we learn from those mistakes? And hopefully, if we did make a mistake, hopefully it's not to the point where society won't let you live it down. And if you find yourself in that situation, you just do the best you can.
Well, the higher these people sort of get in power and status and stuff, it seems like then people either they actually do think they're untouchable, so they start acting like an asshole and doing questionable things like abuse of power and stuff. Or you get to a certain status, you climb the rungs of the ladder so much, and then people want to knock you down a peg. So they start saying, hey, this guy, sneezed in my soup 10 years ago, and,
Yeah. They're going to start picking you apart for shit that happened, in bygone days. and, we were even seeing that with, talking about the Justice League in the last episode. We're seeing that with the directors. First, Zack Snyder was getting shit on for directing the Justice League. And then Joss Whedon comes in, and now he's getting shit on for directing the Justice League. And people are saying, we want the Zack Snyder cut. And now Warner Brothers is shitting on Zack Snyder. And Zack Snyder's son is firing back at Warner Brothers, saying, like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're hurting my father, and we need to see his cut of the film. So, it's all bullshit, Mike. It's all bullshit.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
It's true, man. It's just fucking true. Well, can't we all just get along?
So when did you hear about that button mash place?
Late last year, a friend of mine from here named Chris Kegley, who lives in Echo Park.
The Lone Ranger of Rock.
The Lone Ranger of Rock, the guy who made America's Got, who not made America's Got Talent, but got on it. He likes going to Button Mash, taking the chicks there and having them play a few games, and then taking them back to his apartment so they play with his joystick. Yeah, he mentioned the place, and it's cool. You know, I like the occasional. There's always, to me, look, I grew up in the arcade era of the 80s and late 70s, and for me, there will always be a sort of appeal, a little bit of nostalgia, going back and, you know, getting a quarter out and firing up a game that's nigh impossible, but, you know, standing there and playing it in the loud din of a club. There's an appeal to that, you know, that Button Mash kind of perpetuates. I think it's a good thing, and, you know, what do you think, Mike? You didn't really grow up in that era fully, but I'm sure you can remember it somewhat, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't played video games in general for a little while. I have them at home. I have your Xbox still, and I had a PlayStation 2. I know they're on to like PlayStation 4 now, and I like the retro games too. We have Nintendo at my place and stuff like that. And that was definitely a part of my childhood, but my childhood was like, I think my neighbor had like Nintendo, and then he had Super Nintendo and like Sega Genesis when I was a kid, and then a little bit later, Nintendo 64 was a big deal. GoldenEye 64 and Mario Kart 64, and then now I was right in when we were sort of college age coming up. That like Mario Kart, there's a big nostalgia for that. A lot of people still play that. And I remember arcade games for me was more like Chuck E. Cheese and stuff like that, and we would go there, and then, you know, more recently to that, we would go, you know, a little bit later we would go to like Fun and Games was an arcade they used to have, and I think it's cool. I hadn't done that. I hadn't played in an arcade in like years. I can't remember when. I thought it was cool. We played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, and then they also had Michael Jackson's Moonwalker video game, which I remember playing on the Sega Genesis when I was like 6 or something. And then but the Ninja Turtles game came out, I think, in like 88, 89 or something. It said.
Yeah, 89.
I remember those games, that, and they also had the X-Men arcade game. I remember seeing those at like Chuck E. Cheese and playing those as a kid, and like back like to what you were saying about the appeal of playing in a public setting and stuff. That this random guy just came up and joined in with us playing Ninja Turtles.
Way. And it also goes right back to what we were talking about, like monuments to the past, like the Lemmy statue. At Button Mash, the majority of the games in there are from the late 80s and early 90s. Kind of the second big arcade boom. And for me, that means a time of being in junior high and then high school, and like going to arcades, loving the games, and then hoping that they come out on the old Nintendo system, because that's how it worked back then. And like, you know, in each of the games I can kind of hear, and I can still hear my old buddies from school and remember how it felt to play these games when they were new. You know, it's a real trip to, like, they had RoboCop. And back in 88, that game looked amazing. You know, it's based on the movie. And we used to love that game. It was just like the tops for us. There was that game, you couldn't get better. And I remember the big deal was, when is it going to come out on Nintendo? And, of course, the fear was, you know, how watered down is it going to be? Because as much as I love Nintendo, I'm not going to lie to you, the arcade to home ports left quite a bit to be desired, because the old Nintendo just simply couldn't pull off the graphics. Like an 8-bit machine that pretty much is the brains of an early 80s home computer, like family computer, just doesn't have the stuff to render the splendor and grandeur of like a 16-bit, 32-bit arcade game with stereo sound and like sound bites from the movie. It's just not going to happen. So, but
You had to use your imagination.
well, yeah, but you had to use your imagination to fill in the blanks, or the programmers were smart. They would make the game kind of close enough. You know what I mean? Like aspects of the gameplay were, all right, it doesn't quite look like the arcade game, but it feels a lot like it.
Well, here's an interesting question. I mean, those are all like retro arcade games. Did they have like new arcade games that they also had pinball machines too? Got to play some Ghostbusters pinball.
Yeah.
I mean, do they have like newer arcade games that they have? And this place specifically caters to kind of retro games. Maybe there were a couple of newer games. I don't know.
All the arcade games with the old cathode ray tubes. All the video games were retro games. Things dating back. I think the earliest one I saw was Space Invaders, which was like 78.
I mean, would you call that the heyday of like video games? Is it just our nostalgia for it? Like, why do those? Like, I love the retro games too. Like, I don't why. Like, the newer games have their place with the 3D graphics and stuff, but there's something about those older games that seems to endure.
There was a certain. It was a golden period, but it was a golden period for arcade games. Video games have lasted long enough now to have kind of, subcategories. So you got to remember when the arcade games were in their heyday in the 80s, there were home consoles, and they were different enough to be their own little thing, even though they played like adaptations of the arcade games. Does that make sense? Yeah,
like the Ninja Turtles game, I think only in their arcade game can you have all 4 Ninja Turtles on the screen and multiple multiple players, right? And then same with the X-Men game and things that are unique to the arcade game. Then they also had a Neo Geo arcade machine that I think had a few games on it, right? And didn't you say that was an attempt? It was more expensive at the time, and there was a home console of that, but it was like more expensive and more trying to be closer to an arcade machine or something?
That was the whole appeal of the Neo Geo. It was a luxury machine meant for the person who wanted to have the arcade experience truly in their home. And since I guess we're talking about arcade games now, is thinking about the Neo Geo the Neo Geo was a machine made by a company called SNK, a Japanese company. And the machine released around the midpoint of the 16-bit era, the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo era. I think that's kind of when you got into it, right?
Yeah.
You were old enough to remember that period. And so the years we're talking about is like 1990 to about 1995.
It's interesting that I don't think I had heard of that machine until you had mentioned it. I remember as a kid I collected all the Nintendo Power magazines and stuff like that.
Wow.
And pre sort of internet, it was more esoteric. You had to get these magazines, and there was this build up to these games, because like now it just seems like a new big game comes out all the time. I don't really follow video games in the same way. At the time, it seemed like a big thing.
I myself have like checked out on kind of like funny now is the games I play are all on my iPhone. Like I love Minecraft, and I really love Minecraft. And then there's a bunch of games you can get for $4.99, $2.99, and they play just as good as some of the console stuff, I think. You know what I mean? They offer just plenty of bang for the buck. Not to mention I have no time to really sit down and play a console game anymore, much as I'd like to. But going back to the Neo Geo, high-end luxury machine. If you wanted the pure arcade experience, you picked up a Neo Geo, and going to what you just said, it was obscure because the fucking machine, I think, was like $1,000. And then the games, a single cartridge with one game on it, it was about, I think, in the $200 range.
And then now you can get a collection of them on like one disc, right? They have
now get for Sony PlayStation 2 and the Wii. I know you could get. I had one of them. Was the SNK Neo Geo Volume 1, which had all the big games of the day, and it was like, you know, want to guess how much the disc is?
Like $10.
Like $24. You know what I mean? Like, but that's modern technology. How can you foresee that? You know what I mean? But that was the appeal of the Neo Geo. It was this arcade experience at home, and you know, you were either a super hobbyist or someone who was really fucking rich, because each of those games cost the amount of a system.
Right. You could buy a whole machine to play a bunch of other games on there.
And the tragic thing was, a lot of those games in the Neo Geo weren't very good. They were.
So was that a separate company that? What was the name of the?
The company was named SNK.
Oh yeah, you just.
Yeah.
What do they do now? Do they make games? Or are they around? Or?
They focus now on the mobile game market. So they do a lot of iPhone, Android games. I believe they still create and distribute the popular Metal Slug games. You ever hear of those?
Yeah, those are the little cartoony military guys.
Yup, you run around shooting people. Yeah, I think they still pump one of those out every so often because those still get quarters in arcades. And they also did the Fatal Fury and like Samurai Showdowns.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, their Art of Fighting, they're involved with those games. The one-on-one fighter games. Which, by the way, Mike and I challenged each other earlier in Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting. And, you know, we both got our licks in on each other pretty damn good. But, Mike, you said you were practicing on the...
We're not going to say that I beat you.
But, yeah, you beat me on one. But you've been practicing on the one of the home compilations, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a few months ago. The most recent time I was playing games, I remember I was playing Street Fighter 2. And, yeah, I started to get pretty good. Pretty good. And we played, and then I was able to continue on. I played the computer for one more fight, but
a new challenger has entered the ring. I like that. A new challenger has arrived, or something like along those.
Hey ho ho!
Quincy Briscoe, the Street Fighter. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna slather my fries in ketchup. That's what I'm doing right now. As you can see, the fries have a really nice consistency.
It's a fry unboxing video we're doing.
Fries are chopped into nice long rectangles, and the ketchup sticks to them nicely without dribbling off the side. It's a nice consistency in the ketchup at room temperature. And now I'm going to try one of the fries.
As you can see,
not bad. A little bit cold, so...
So have you tried... I didn't get a chance. That's what my buddy Max Goody, who's been on the podcast, told me you gotta try In-N-Out Burger in Los Angeles. Yeah,
it's great. Bill Murray's a fan of In-N-Out.
So what's the difference then? You know,
an In-N-Out Burger tastes along the lines of something you get at a barbecue. It's cooked really well.
Maybe they'll have it at the airport and I'll try it.
It's not like a slapdash cut and paste affair like McDonald's food. It actually feels and tastes like food. And the fries are also pretty darn good. The French fries are pretty darn good. I know you can't have French fries, but their French fries are pretty damn good.
I guess I could have it if I wanted. You know,
I don't recommend.
They accidentally swapped my drink in the Rainbow Bar and Grill, so I had Diet Coke. That's like accidentally falling off the wagon from my abstinence from soda and caffeine and Diet Coke in particular.
Yeah. I don't really recommend going back on the Coke.
No.
Going back on the Coke. Yeah, you know, moderation is everything, but why throw yourself in the deep end, Mike? There you go.
Yeah. So, what else you got? The Lemmy statue was cool. I know I can probably put this up soon. I mean, I know in Cambridge, Massachusetts, they're getting ready to our buddy Duncan Wilder Johnson, who's a rock and roll guy, has played in a few bands, and is also a punk rock guy, spoken word performer, a writer, and he's been on the podcast with me and with us as a morning show too. And I know he and also Angel Wood from WZLX, the local classic rock station in Boston. She does the local show, Boston Emissions. Duncan's going to perform on it, I think, or he did last year. And I know she organizes this show. It's called Lemmy Fest, and it's their tribute to Lemmy. I guess they just get a bunch of people together and they do Motorhead covers and stuff like that as like a tribute to Lemmy in Boston. And I don't know that he's actually seen the statue. I didn't know that there was an actual statue there. Again, I was saying it was more than I even thought it would be as far as like the location and stuff. So that's coming up. Tell us about Goth Robot 2.0, and I know he went to a punk show out here recently, right?
Yeah, Goth Robot 2.0, what can be said about him is he's a friend of mine, a cyborg man, and Goth, he has long black fingers and kind of a steampunk head, and he makes music of his own, but he went to a club called Club Bar Sinister and proceeded to get hit on by the pole dancers who'd grab him and then make out with his face. Goth had, kind of a mask on. But they just start like fucking French kissing the mask. Hold on. And, it's quite a sight, and other girls come up and start dry humping his leg. And
I don't know all this went on, but
well, it went on. And a couple of gay guys tried to grab him, and by going, "Come here," and they wanted to do things with him, but he said, "Nope, I don't swing that way, guys." And it was that Goth Robot. He's escaped the future to live in our past and really be here, and he wants to do more. He always wants to do more.
Only to go on and make out with pole dancers.
Yeah. You got to have priorities.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of amazing.
But what was did you want to talk about what was the band that he saw and everything?
Oh, the bands that he saw. Can't remember the name, but it was a bunch of guys.
Scarlet. Was this a different?
Oh, we're talking a different thing.
Well, I don't know. I guess anything that he's.
And the second thing the Goth Robot went to in the same night was a place in Los Angeles called the Institute for the Abnormal Arts. And while there, he got to see a punk band called Scarletto and the Apocalypse. And there was a couple of other acts as well. It was a real eye-opener for Goth Robot. So he's a scene stir all of a sudden. He gets out there and he has a good attitude about it. But he's definitely making the rounds. Definitely making the rounds.
Didn't he also have a music video where he performs a song of his own too?
Robot does indeed make his own music and stars in his own music videos. The first song is called "I Like to Feed the Oogla Ditch," and then the second song is called "I Still Haven't Gotten Over You." And that was an instrumental, pretty much. The current one he's working on now is the current song he's working on now is more politically charged, and it's a fast song, but hopefully it'll be out soon. Yeah.
So what's an oogla ditch?
Something we made up.
Okay.
An oogla ditch is a desert creature, on all four legs. And it's a walking monster. It's 40 feet tall, that sort of thing. Yeah.
That's nice.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm kind of. I gotta keep talking. My brain is kind of fried
All right.
at the moment. Sorry.
That's okay.
Having a good time.
Having a good time. Not. But yep, another trip out from Santa Barbara and into Hollywood, California.
Yep.
It's been cool. It was a trek, and I did have a good time. This is a cool little trip, and let's see. I put up on the site. You can see that first TV episode we did. You can also see the episode I did with my friend Kelly, who's a spirit medium. We did sort of check that one out. Took some calls, and she kind of did her thing, getting in touch with the spirits. Whether or not you believe in that kind of thing, it makes for an interesting listen to document that kind of thing. We recorded it around Halloween time, so getting in touch with the ghosts, the spirits, and yeah, it was my trip here to California is close to the end. I got to get back and check on our cat, who, again, our friend Barry O'Toole, musician, How to Be Healthy and Still Have a Life TV host. He's taking care of the cat, and it's going to be good. Pretty good. And I got to go hanging in Santa Barbara. I went down the other night up into the beach, Stearns Wharf. I got to take, there's I think they call it a water taxi, the water trolley, whatever, and it takes you right down State Street there to the beach. There's all these little shops and stuff around State Street. There was another kind of punk rock place around there that sold a bunch of records and like posters and CDs and stuff, like a small shop. And they had like a mannequin out front that was kind of dressed up as like a punk rock chick, and it reminded me of the videos some of the girls, the dancers, and the videos I've been making for my buddy Victor, aka DJ Kuro, at his night The Attic, which you can go to every Thursday at the Club Machine, 1254 Boylston Street in Boston, Massachusetts. You go there, there's no cover, and see the dancers, and it's like a goth industrial night. And Victor DJs there occasionally as DJ Kuro, and then there's guest DJs many times. So it's been fun doing that. And a little adventure coming out here. Connecting with some people. We mentioned getting to stay with my old buddy Michael Patton Rubin and the family, which I knew from New TV in Newton ages ago when I worked there, and learned from him there how to be part of a TV crew. And so it's been cool.
Hey folks, I gotta keep my head on the road. It's one of those weird things, but that's all. I'm sorry.
This is the other side of the trip back, and we're all kind of, I think we got some good content. It started strong, and then you can check out the earlier podcast as well, where we did our little review on Justice League, which if you didn't hear that, part of my little touristy trip, got to go to the TCL Chinese Theater, the Walk of Fame, all that. Got my photo with Edward Scissorhands and Willy Wonka. Got a trim from Edward. Classic, iconic Johnny Depp characters from Tim Burton films. I feel like I'm doing like this is like the guys who do the Star Tours or whatever, like, but in the dark. So to your left, you'll see Mothman's natural habitat. Over here, the Jersey Devil, or does Los Angeles have any cryptozoology characters?
I believe it does. It's probably where they all converge.
The locals are strange enough.
Yeah, man, I'm tapping
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's alright. Sorry. Yeah. Me too.
Sometimes I can do it, other times I'm like dying.
But yeah, Lawrence and I have had many adventures on the road, various trips. As our buddy Quincy Briscoe, entertainer, likes to say, life on the road, eating road food. So thanks for checking it out. This is our little two-parter reunion. Tack this one on. Let's say the first one was almost 3 hours, so I'd say this is another rounded out 3 hours, almost 4 hours of stuff. So traveled with Lawrence. We've been in New York, New Jersey. We visited the locations of Kevin Smith films as fans. Went to the Quick Stop and all that stuff. And cool to come here and get to see. Yeah, the Monroeville Mall. We didn't talk about that. We went all the way went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and rode into the Monroeville Mall, which people would know from the film Dawn of the Dead, right? Where
1978 version, not the 2004 version. Yeah.
And because Kevin Smith was filming his movie Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and we were extras in that. I could see Seth Rogen and Craig Robinson there coming up and down the escalator. I got to see Kevin directing. And yeah, hung around, got paid $10 for lunch, hung out in the food court with all of the Kevin Smith, View Askew Productions fans who had come from all over to be a part of one of the movies. And from that, I remember flying. I remember like running late for the flight, and then we were like knocking on the plane door, which you're not supposed to do. Like once the door is closed, that's supposed to be it, and they let us on. And flying, that was around 2007, I think. 2008. 2008.
March 2008.
Mm-hmm. And I remember the movie came out on Halloween. Yeah. But we came in, I remember taking like long, I think it was like some kind of shuttle or like a subway thing we took from the airport, and then we got into a cab, and it was kind of like a long ride into Monroeville, and then finding the motel. And I don't know if the guy had like trivia about Monroeville or something, but and then there was a long, I think we thought that the mall where they were going to shoot, that it was closer than it was, or we were too cheap to get a taxi or something. And then it was sort of a dangerous location for being a pedestrian, walking like on the edge of kind of like a highway and stuff. So we were walking, kind of had to cross some busy like intersections and stuff. And I remember there was that like older woman this prune-faced woman who agreed with us something about that it was dangerous, or that they should put a rail up or something. We made it there into the mall and found the extras holding or whatever, or I remember the person. It was like Nancy Mosser casting. I think was doing the extras casting. It's like a Pittsburgh extras casting place. And you had to submit. Like I took our photos and put them into an envelope and mailed them out or something. And we went. And I remember saying, the Boston people are here. The Boston people are here. And we went and we sat down in the food court and waited to be called. We were kind of far away from camera though. You were in that kid's playland, I think, and you were reading the zombie survival guide to children, I think. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, remember that? That was like, I don't think it was not in the scene, I don't think, but in between you had that as a book, I think. I don't know if it was trying to be appropriate because it was in the zombie movie. But yeah.
I was reading it to kids.
You had it.
What did I have, like a bunch of kids coming up to me? And I don't remember that. I would remember that.
Maybe you weren't reading it to kids, but you had it.
I was reading it.
Maybe were you sitting it and reading it? Maybe there were kids. Maybe I was just mixed because I'm getting tired too.
Yeah.
But
I would remember that.
Let's just say that you did. You know.
You should say I was reading it to kids. That's a better story. But yeah, I just don't remember. Wow.
And I remember there was like kind of a guy with a goatee or something, and he, like this young guy, and he was all stoked about like being an extra in the movie, and he was like, "I'm gonna shave and come back tomorrow" or something like that. Like he thought he could come and be like another extra or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was, and then just waiting around, and then on the ride back, a lot of people from Kevin Smith's website, he had a message board then where there were a lot of fans would go on the message board and kind of congregate there and would know people from there. And a couple of people shouted me out from there who got to play clerks, I guess, in like different stores, like a jewelry store or something in the mall, and they were really excited about that because Kevin Smith's first movie was Clerks, convenience store Clerks. But then when the shoot was over, that was when we got the cab ride back from this large black man in a stocking cap who he was saying, "What are you there for?" And we said we're extras. We were extras or whatever. And we said, then he goes, "Did you all say you were actors?" Extras. And we were looking for a place to eat, and that's when he now legendarily said, "There's a place, the McGinnis sisters."
Which just sounds like the most. Yeah. That sounds like the blackest place you could. He's a big old black man. He's just. He found the McGinnis sisters.
Well, something is around here.
Nah, you be going to the McGinnis sisters. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You can say that. I can't.
Half of me can say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we just settled for the Rite Aid to get food, and we went, and I think we might have stayed on like a day or two more, and that was cool, hanging in the motel, and we watched the Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane and who else? That was on TV. That was a good time, just chilling out in the motel.
We chilled out in the hotel room, didn't we? Didn't we hang? Because that part is fuzzy to me. We did spend some time there then. Okay. And we had the food from, I went to a Rite Aid and got some really bad, like just, cup of noodles, whatever that was around. The McGinnis sisters proved to be, I think, too much of a hike, or we couldn't find it. And, yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, not chronological, going back when we first got there. The other story details that everyone cares about, I think, is... like we made the not so smart choice. I don't know that we had like a day before. Like I think when we landed, we were gonna land, and then that same day we were supposed to meet to do this. I think it was the same day after we got off the plane. I don't think it was that long of a flight. I can't remember that at all now, like what the flight was like. But
it was a run and gun affair. I thought that we got there at night though. Wasn't our flight at the day? or night.
I think it was day. I don't. Maybe.
I thought we got there and then we rested up, and then the next day we went down. Because I remember going to the thing in the morning.
Yeah, maybe it was just so early. I just remember like we didn't have time to. I remember like sharing deodorant or something. Like I remember if I took a horse bath and then like got my stuff and went.
Really cold out because it was winter time. So it was super cold out, and then we also had that long walk from the hotel room to the mall, the Monroeville Mall. Which,
But see, I can't remember when I last like saw like Dawn of the Dead. Like I don't really know. I know of the movie and like pieces of it, but like you're the fan of the movie, so that was kind of like, you know, same thing like going to the Lemmy statue. And if you're not like a huge Lemmy fan, it's like
it was a double thing. You know, like for me, it was the Dawn of the Dead and being on kind of like hallowed ground almost. And then for you, it was, you know, being in a, you know, I like Kevin Smith too, but you're the super fan for, you know, being in a Kevin Smith movie. You know, and him, obviously a fan of Dawn of the Dead, has to be if he's shooting the movie in that mall. And because he's a movie guy himself. He's as much of a geek as we are.
Yeah, because I don't know if that was like the original plan, but then if you've seen the movie, Seth Rogen's character Zach is playing hockey, and he has a sweatshirt that says the name of the team is the Monroeville Zombies.
There you go.
So they made it a reference in the film.
In the mall, from what I remember in the movie, doesn't really factor in a lot. It's like
No, it's just like they work in the mall, or one of the guys works in the mall, or they're there on Black Friday. And that scene, like, anyone who's been on a big movie set or been an extra, you know, it's like a 12-hour day, and like that scene, it was like that one scene, and you know, that scene is like 5 minutes or less, you know.
And Mike and I are truly in the background.
Thinking we're so fucking suave too.
If you look, you can kind of make out my forehead and nose,
Yeah.
and I think we can make out the back of your head or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're visible, but it's a blink and you'll miss us. But we're definitely there. At least there's that much. Yeah.
And that the film like has its moments. It wasn't my favorite Kevin movie. I think like by his own admission, it was sort of an attempt to make a break more for the mainstream, like in a Judd Apatow kind of style, like having Seth Rogen as the lead and stuff, and trying to. It's kind of like the story, like in a way, like Clerks, because it's the idea of like let's make this movie, happens to be a porno movie, but we'll get out of debt because people. It's him and a like platonic friend that he owed, but then he secretly kind of they liked each other and they end up like hooking up, but it's kind of about the DIY effort of like making a movie.
Yeah, I agree. It was,
And it has boobs in it.
It's got boobs. Was it whose boobs was it? I can't.
They had Katie Morgan, the porn star, who's
Oh, yeah,
a decent
yeah.
like
She's-
real actress. Funny.
She's plowing that dude. She's wearing a strap on and plowing some
Oh,
dude.
that's who else? There was another real like porn star. I can't remember. There was somebody like an older porn star who she was kind of famous. Yeah. But she has the strap on, and then she can blow bubbles like out of her vagina or whatever. So
Right, which is great.
there's that. And that Craig Robinson, what's his Delaney, and he's like, as a producer, it's my job. Just see what you got. You don't have to. And then she just like, some chick like, takes her dress off and is like totally naked underneath it and just throws it at him, and he's like, I love the movies. He's just overwhelmed by he got the Asperger's too, you know, around that. Yeah.
Oh, around the boobs.
Yeah, you know.
Boobs induced Asperger's. Makes you kind of definitely makes you tune out and feel really, really weird.
It's on a WebMD, that condition specifically. But yeah, that dude Craig Robinson, he's funny. He was also on the Office. And yeah, I guess that didn't do too well at the box office, Zack and Miri, but it's a decent film, and it's a personal memory. That trip, another thing I can't believe that I did, and another journey we shared together. I don't know who else would like go with me on things like that, like try to get some of our other friends into stuff like that, but I think being a fan of pop culture and then making movies yourself, I think they can have a different kind of appreciation for that stuff. I don't know if I would do that again. I guess you have youthful and exuberance for like certain things. I guess it depends. Touring movie locations or being in a movie.
Entering Santa Barbara. And not to get rid of Mike, but just thank God my brain is active.
Did it say that?
Huh?
Did it say entering Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
Oh.
Believe it or not.
That's good.
It's just a long ride, people.
Yeah, I know.
My brain.
This is a nice trophy. That's our buddy Richard Berman, the host of the Richard Berman Show. Which, of course, you would know that because his fans are legion. He's from New TV. He did a show. He's our buddy. Life on the road. This is my travel diary.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Didn't you go when you went to Japan? You did a whole on your show. Random Acts did a whole special, right? Weren't you walking around like with a microphone talking to yourself, right?
I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was and that was 12 years ago, 13 years ago, something like that. Alright. Here we are, see the day. It's a road that's gonna get us out of harm's way.
Pancakes and coffee. California, we got looking at the palm trees, and they got all those sort of like white, like Christmas lights under a lot of like the buildings or around the buildings that are there all the time. Yep. Here we are. We're gotta get some coffee. We're at the Point Market here. It's late night drive back from Hollywood. Trying to make the drive into Santa Barbara, California, where I'm staying here for a couple more days. And yep, it's about 12:22 in the AM now. And thanks to Lawrence making the drive, man, showing me around. Good friend. My best friend, I would say, man. Many adventures and collaborated, and you do things sometimes you wish you could do things differently. Thinking about the past, ruminating, but you just kind of course correct. Do it as you go. Me, here I am improvising, recording on the road. In the moment here, live to tape. Thanks for hanging with us if you're hanging with us, if you're listening. Thanks for sticking with us. A little bit of dead air there as both of our brains kind of go dead. Getting tired. Hopefully we entertained you. You learned something. You learned how we tick. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Get a microphone. Get a little recorder here. Little XLR cable. Hook it in. And start talking your fool heads off, man. interesting. Start documenting and travel. You know, I'm grateful for the means to travel right now to see my friend. Little reunion. You can check out Lawrence's films, youtube.com/captureman. I know he has several other sites. Check out vampireobscura.com to check out his films. He makes music and does a lot of stuff. Usually I kind of like, it's always hard, once you turn on the mic, to capture the magic. But it's actually funny now. We never did this before. Kind of improvising because I don't have a permanent, a setup. At home I do. And before that we recorded in a studio in Boston. But this is the first time I got my little field set up to record this in the car. And my dream of this podcast was always to capture the magic that Lawrence and I would have, conversations we would have in the car. And now here we are doing it. So out of necessity and out of having to improvise because we're on the move, this trip, and we had limited time. So this is the way I can kill two birds with one stone, hang and record a podcast. So you're part of that. I love caffeine. had to avoid it.
Yeah, try to avoid it myself.
I gave it up for Lent.
Nice.
I also got sick as soon as I got off the airplane. There was a guy on the airplane wearing a surgical mask, and I thought he was a lunatic. Of course, now he's having the last laugh. And on the plane ride over, talking about shutting your brain off on the plane ride over, usually I like to watch old familiar favorites when I don't want to think too much. So I got, on the plane they had Beetlejuice. I watched that, one of my favorite movies. And Spider-Man Homecoming was on there, which I thought was good. Newer one that I liked. I watched that. And then an episode of The Flash, the episode of The Flash that Kevin Smith directed, being a fan of him, which I like The Flash anyway. Caught up with it on Netflix. We were talking about the whole on-demand streaming video phenomenon. Here we are at another convenience store. The kind of the phenomenon of, life, that necessity of the road travel, road food. Remember that an early concept I think Kevin Smith had for Clerks was that it would be sort of a Twilight Zone-y kind of short where it would be various monsters come into the convenience store. And, of course, you encounter that in real life, too. And I remember Bob Hawke, the guy who was kind of an independent film impresario, kind of who plucked Clerks kind of out of obscurity and said this should be a Sundance film. He was intrigued with it because he thought convenience stores were kind of a metaphor of how we live our lives in America, and I guess that would be sort of that sort of go kind of lifestyle or attitude or whatever, or who knows how good for you some of that stuff is, but it's there. And I remember, our buddy Quincy Briscoe said, get your coffee, cream. He's a big fan of the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Is Quincy Briscoe. Get your dunks, double D's, and go to the shoot. You could never just hang out with Quincy Briscoe. He always had to be eating road food on the road or TV food in a TV station. Radio food in a radio station, as the biggest audience he reached in Boston as an entertainer was on the alternative rock station WBCN on the Toucher and Rich show. And those who listen there would know, of course, his affinity for Quisp cereal also.
Yeah.
But he'd come in to the radio studio with, I think he had like one Red Bull and like an Amp energy drink or something, like 2 different kinds. Which you would think he's really the last guy who would need caffeine, because if you've heard him, you know he's kind of a loud guy, bombastic guy, who we mentioned the Golden Sound show was a rock show at Brookline Access TV that Quincy Briscoe hosted. People might know him from there. And speaking of like the Lemmy statue, we always fantasized about there being a Quincy Briscoe statue. Perhaps in the center of his hometown of Stoneham, Massachusetts.
We're approaching the last leg of, believe it or not, we're approaching the last leg of the journey here in somewhat record time. So, these last few minutes, kind of recapping everything. Reminiscing. Hopefully you can come back soon, Mike. It'd be good to have you back soon on the West Coast, you know. But hopefully you had a good time and it was a nice break, and it'll send you back all good and refreshed, you know, ready to do business on the East Coast. You know, all things must pass. All trains come to a stop, and fun must give way to work. So, you know, what can you do?
I thought it was good to have like a heart out this time. Also, it was because I didn't know who was going to be taking care of the cat. Like, I'm taking care of my mother's cat.
Yeah, now you know. You got this terminus point, and you got to be back, and it's good. It's good. It always is good.
It's good.
It's good. You know, it's
a clip from our buddy Quincy Briscoe in that where he's interviewing D.L. Polanski, which got a bunch of views recently, and so we don't know why that exactly is, if he was mentioned on the, like I said, the Toucher and Rich radio show now, which even though BCN is off the air, they're on 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston. But yeah, it's been good hanging out. I got to see some stuff. It was cool. Got to hang out, meet a couple of new people, see some old familiar faces. And
familiar faces, old familiar places, you know, a whole bit.
Yeah. No, I think even though it's not, you know, fame and fortune, whatever, it's like I got to, you know, been twice out to the LA area. I think it's pretty good. So, pretty good. pretty good. Went to that, we said on the last podcast, went to Pacific Park and the Santa Monica Pier. Got to see Venice Beach again a little bit. That was cool. Yeah. A lot of good stuff. Got a couple of postcards to send out. Figure out what I'm going to do in the next couple of days. Gonna try to see, we're gonna try to go on a date before I go. And maybe link up again with our old buddy Aaron Schulman from Canon Entertainment, who was the guy when I was out here last a few years ago. I think I told this story somewhere on the podcast before, but we just heard this Starbucks barista talking about, he sold this movie script, and then we asked her about it, and she said, I'm working with this guy, and maybe you guys could get on the production side of things. And we went and met up with this guy in his little office. He's a real estate guy, and his little office turned out to be in the same area near where I was staying with my buddy Mike, and met up with him, and he was like entrusted with these old movie scripts. This old Hollywood writer, Doran William Cannon, I guess most famous for, he sold the script for this movie Skidoo and this movie Brewster McCloud with Bud Cort. And then I guess Robert Altman directed that. I think it was Skidoo or Brewster McCloud. I can't remember, but they altered the script kind
I
of.
think Robert Altman directed Brewster McCloud. Robert Altman, that's a named director. Skidoo was a mess.
Yeah, it was like considered a head movie. It was supposed to be like, I don't know, psychedelic. I can't really remember.
Yeah,
Mickey Rooney's in it. There were a lot of names in the movie. Frankie Avalon.
very drug inspired, counterculture 60s.
Not a hit by any. I don't even think a cult movie.
Something like, Aqua Teens or whatever now, but Aqua Teens is funny.
Yeah.
But it's along those lines. It's surreal and weird.
It's funny.
Shit, just free-form situations that don't really make any sense at all. And that's what Skidoo was. It was, something purely out of the zeitgeist of the late 60s, but just an abysmal train wreck of a movie. Notable, I think, because it was one of the last, if not the last, appearance of Groucho Marx on film.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was one of the last. But he was all old and still did his thing in it. He was still funny, but it was definitely an older, elderly Groucho Marx.
Yeah. They gotta do the slow down, the old man voice, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
So today I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How it got in my pajamas? I don't know.
How it got in my pajamas.
It's just a defeated old, oh, what do you got over there, ice cream? It's how the mighty have fallen. It's our heroes, man, but everyone gets old. That's just the thing. Everyone gets old. Things pass.
Eventually you'll get a statue.
Eventually you get...
Or something.
Eventually you pass on, and if you're lucky, you get a statue, or if you're at least lucky, you just get left alone. Which is what I want. Like, I don't want any statue. When I die, I don't want to drive anymore. I don't want to worry about women anymore. I don't want to worry about jobs. I want to be dead. I want my consciousness to be wiped clean. When I'm gone, I want to be gone without a trace. That's how I want to be. I don't want any I pray that there's no sort of afterlife.
Yeah.
I don't want a heaven. I definitely don't want a hell. I just want to be non-existent. And if people call me for rides, not you, Mike, but I'll be, haha, you can't bother me. I'm dead. You're gonna have to figure it out yourself, Quincy Briscoe. Yeah. But hey, no, you know what? I love having friends. It's nice. It's just, yeah, I'm just tired right now. I'm insane, and I'm speaking out of my ass. Yeah, hey, look, you get a statue or you get left alone. I pick B. Unless it's Mike. If Mike found a way to talk to my co-ops, it'd be great.
Do a podcast with it.
Yeah. You have permission to do that. Before you go, Mike, make sure you get everything with you.
Okay. Wrap this up. We arrived.
I got a good message. Oh wait, here we go.
Does all this mean we have a little song coming?
Here we go. A little goodbye, or a little parting song from Max Headroom to Mike, and from me to the show.
We end with this?
Yeah.
All right.
This is from David Letterman, 1987. Max Headroom singing a parting song. That's good. Mike, this is to you. I dedicate this to you.
Yeah, man. Not yet!
Max Headroom's live appearance
Yeah.
on the David Letterman Show, 1987. Here we go.
It's been a great show. We're sorry that it's through. Goodbye is such a sad word. So let's just say adieu. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Max Headroom. Thank you, Max. We appreciate your stopping by. All right.
There you go.
That's great.
Good
So
way to end it.
that was Filmmaker, Lawrence Hollie. I'm Mike O'Toole. Find me Instagram, Michael P. O'Toole, Facebook.com/Mike O'Toole. Go to Experimentally Ill. Go to see Lawrence's films, YouTube.com/CaptureMan, and Lawrence Hollie 73 on Instagram, and Lawrence Hollie on Twitter, and all that stuff. And let's see, November 26, 2017, episode 103. So check out the other shows all on experimentallyIll.com. Until next time, persist to get ill.
I think he's lost his mind. He's never been like this before. Oh, I think that he's some kind of a spaceman and that they're taking over the Earth.
And what do we know about our latest commander?
Better get him some help.
Don't listen to him. But in turn, face you, you'd be like an ant falling apart. They put me on my part. They told me to keep in mind the scientific knowledge. Also be aware of the human. I know it's all about your commander stands for you.
You're mentally disturbed.
Don't fight them, son.
It'll make it more difficult for all of us.
What we're doing is wrong.
Jupiter,
We should save these creatures, not exterminate them.
Pluto, Mars.
Hate and prejudice, but these are only the brutes, and we find them in evidence.